Welcome back. It's story time. And well, actually, I do get to make a couple of comments to start with. This is Comment Wednesday. And I noticed that 21 of you have actually subscribed to this storytelling time. And I'm thanking you. Yes. I'm grateful to know that I have some of you who actually enjoy hearing a story being read to them again. Hope it brings you comfort. Well, speaking of comfort, we're moving on down that trail with Thomas and Ella. Well, technically it's up the trail because they're going up the hill. So let's see what's happening now. Where did we leave off? Okay, they were slowly and carefully walking up the fence trail line, reminiscing about the old dog Brandywine. Soon Thomas gets tired of storytelling Ella always getting her say about their adventures with Brandywine. But Paul is curious and asks, so what happened to her? Bruce looks at Jack, pats the dog's head, and says, she died in 81. She was 20 years old. That's very old, especially for a big dog. Animals tend to live a long time around here. They know they are loved. Well, Charlie got Jack as a puppy in 79, or about then, when he knew it was almost time for her to go. Jack was a runt of the litter, just like Brandywine had been. Charlie always thought the runts were the best of the litter. Well, Bruce pauses in his storytelling for a moment to remember times with Charlie and Brandywine. Then he looks up at the others and continues. He wanted Brandywine to teach Jack the ropes of the dude ranch life. Of course, we humans teach the 7 basic commands that we feel our dogs need to know. Paul quickly asks, sounds like something I need to know. Our kids insisted on getting a puppy, and right now, puppy rules. What are those dog rules? Bruce looks at Thomas, wondering how much of that he will remember. Thomas looks at Bruce and quietly says, I only remember come, sit, and stay. That's not 7, so help me out, Bruce. What are the others? Bruce smiles and says, down, off, heel, and no. Paul quickly says, yeah, those sounds like something I could use. Guess I better give in and let my kids get their puppy trained. Jack sure is a good example of that. Ralph shakes his head in agreement and says, from what I can see, Brandywine was a great teacher. Jack sure is a great ranch dog. Isn't that right, Tommy? He leans around the camera and looks at Thomas. Thomas looks sternly at Ralph and answers briskly, I'm not Tommy. I am Thomas. Ralph, surprised by the sudden abruptness, calmly asks, well, why? Didn't you ever have a nickname? Ella hangs her head. Thomas gets very serious. He turns away for a bit. Then, as he slowly lumbers up the pathway, he turns back with tears welling up in his eyes. And his jaw is set as he says, my mother called me Thomas. I am not Tommy. Ella gently touches his arm and slows down in her stride. Paul matches her pace, and they settle back behind Champ. Soon Ella calls to Bruce, you win, it's break time, and she sits down on a boulder. Thomas shudders at the thought of stopping. He kicks the dirt again and walks away from her. Bruce quickly goes to Champ and gets her chair. Ella, seeing what he is reaching for, quickly says, oh, I can rest here on this rock. Bruce knowingly looks at her as he keeps busy untying her chair and says, and you can keep your feet raised up on that boulder too. Nope. You need this chair. Ella sheepishly agrees to that. Okay, I'll sit in a chair and put my feet on the boulder. Bruce is there by her side in seconds with her chair and the first aid kit, saying, while you're sitting, let me renew the salve on those blisters. Ella doesn't quite complain. She only asks, why? It's only been an hour. Thomas gets frustrated at Ella stopping and dragging out the hike and spits out his concern. We're almost at the first post. Can't you just push on so we can just get this trek done and over with? Bruce sets up her chair without hesitation. As she is transferring from the rock to the chair, Bruce, looking at Thomas with a fatherly glances. She's obeying my instructions. Don't worry about the time. We're not on a schedule. It won't hurt to give her a 10-minute rest. Thomas turns away, sarcastically saying, maybe you don't know I have a job to get back to sometime sooner than later. Ella looks longingly at Thomas and says, I promise I'll get up as soon as Bruce says my time is up. Thomas shrugs his shoulders and walks over to the trees so he can be away from his Ella, muttering and murmuring as he goes. Ralph walks at a respectful pace away from Thomas to allow him his space. Jack looks at both of them, Thomas, then Ella, not sure who needs him most. Then slowly he walks over to Thomas and sits down like a sentinel. Thomas gets lost in thought. Ralph makes sure he captures the moment. Ralph watches a pair of rabbits hop across the road on the west side of the fence and up the hill and under the wooden fence. His eyes and body turn to follow their movements as they dart into the forest. This doesn't bother Jack. He just sits. He's on duty. He looks up at Thomas and just sits and waits. Bruce tenderly takes one foot at a time. Paul gives his full attention to staying close at hand, filming the process while Bruce is applying more savvy, especially on her toes. Bruce carefully puts the bandages on both pair of socks back on. He has Ella pull the boots back on. Then, to answer her last question, Bruce finally says, with his foreman voice, once we turn east at the corner post, it gets steeper. That's all he says. That's all. Then he calls for a 10-minute break. Ella is curious about one more thing and asks, Bruce, I don't understand Uncle Charles. He was always helping other people. Why can't he just help us by giving us the ranch up front? Why do we have to make this silly walk? Bruce simply replies, he has his purpose. Ella lets out a sigh, shakes her head, not understanding, then relaxes for a few minutes. Paul retreats to the nearby trees. Then, resting on a rock, he keeps his camera handy, just in case. Ella quietly listens to the sounds around her. Only a few cars pass by on the road. That's about 40 feet below them. After all, it's only a country road. Not many people live out this way. Ella notices the lack of traffic and thinks, not like in the city. She watches some little animals scurry about, the rabbits, the squirrels. Ella smiles at their difference in type of traffic. She quietly listens to the wind as it dances through the branches of the trees. Ella likes the song they sing. She noticed a few billowing clouds and sees the shape of a dog swimming across the sky, his big paw reaching high out of the water, his nose pointed upward toward the sky, and his floppy ears flowing in the wind. She smiles and thinks, so much fun it is to find shapes in the clouds. Exactly as promised, Ella is up and willing to go when Bruce calls out, time to move on. After putting her chair back in its place, Bruce takes the lead with Champ. Jack comes bounding over and does his weaving magic around Champ's legs, then runs off back down the pathway and into the forest. Jack stops before he enters the forest, turns to the group, and gives a couple of happy barks. Woof, woof, woof. Then he's gone. Ralph is first to speak up and says, well, I guess it's time for his next adventure.
Thomas follows Jack with his eyes, then merely nods his head in agreement. Thomas was wishing he could go off, bounding off into the forest with Jack. Then Ralph and Thomas take a place at the end of the procession. Thomas just nods his head in disgust and watches Ella carefully walk around the rocks and bushes. "Hey," says Thomas, surprised at what he's seeing. "Where did she get those boots and the hat? That's different too." Ralph smiles at Thomas's late response to Ella's attire, thinking, that shows just how much Thomas has been ignoring Ella. In fact, it shows that Thomas had predetermined to not be around or pay attention to Ella. Ella, walking backward up the hill, happily answers, "I heard that. Aren't these boots just wonderful? They're the boots Uncle Charles got for me. How stupid was I not to wear them yesterday? They are perfectly comfortable, and I love them. Ugly as they are, I love them. And this is the Uncle Charles leather fishing hat. What a treat for me." Then she turns around and grabs Champ's tail, an old trail ride trick that she learned from her Uncle Charles. It helps her keep up with the hill better. Champ doesn't flinch at all. He knows the feel of her weight. Bruce is concerned and has Champ slow down a bit so they don't pull Ella too fast. Thomas shakes his head despairingly, not sure how to take in this new-to-him attitude that Ella is showing toward him. He watches her with distrust, not believing her words or actions. Sooner than Ella can think about the shapes in the white fluffy clouds that are billowing around in the blue Montana sky, Bruce calls out, "First post just ahead." Thomas spurts past Ella to be the first one at the post. Ella smiles and does not chase after him like they used to do when they were kids. Thomas calls out, "First one to the post is the winner." Alf just cannot keep up with Thomas's long strides, although he puts some good effort into it. Yes, Thomas is the first to arrive at the post and gleefully waiting for the others to arrive. Bruce is all business as he has the group stop at the post, and he begins, "You all need to listen up. This is the worst stretch of the hike." Ella gulps. Thomas stands tall. He can face any challenge. Bruce continues, "We will be hiking at a 45-degree angle from here up to High Meadow. It's just about 3 miles. Everyone, and that means all of you, will need to help each other. Your equipment takes second place to safety of people, whether it be a backpack or a camera. Do you get it?" They look at each other and all nod in acceptance. Thomas gets a surly look on his face, thinking about Ella. She'll never make it. She's a wimp. Ralph captures the moment. Bruce looks at each of them, then continues, "I will need to be working with the horse. Champ will go up this faster than any of you can. So, don't, Ella. Do not hold onto his tail from this point on." Ella quietly, very soberly answers, "Yes, sir." Then Bruce admonishes them, "Stay near the fence line. Don't wander. Be safe. This must be done together. Do you get it?" He waits for each of them to reply. Ella is first to respond as she looks at each of them and obediently says, "I will do whatever you say. I will obey." Thomas shakes his head in disbelief again, wonders what game is she playing now. Then Ralph, in military style, speaks up, "Yes, sir. You know best." Paul is full of anxiety for Ella, yet he answers next, "I'm a team player. You can count on me, sir." Then silence. Only the chirping of the birds can be heard. Ella pensively looks down. Ralph and Paul look at each other, wondering that, oh, yep, time to say that's it for today. Thank you ever so much for joining me again. And I do thank you for your patience as I read through this, because sometimes I
stutter a bit. However, I appreciate your time. And I appreciate that you're willing to go forth this day, as always, striving to do what Jesus would do as you go forth with kindness and love in your heart for all those around you. Well, bye-bye now. Love hugs from Grama Jean.